For any of you who missed the riveting almost 2 hours of Donald Trump going into his diatribe, it was a State of the Union that we had. Well, it was everywhere, of course, but we also had coverage here for the Conversation Project. Well, you missed great radio, television, media, or not, because the speech itself wasn't a great speech. It was just not great. And the people who try to, spin it that way, they were sort of forced to do that. However, we're not going to talk about the main bits and pieces that other folks are complaining about today. We're going to go into the side bet, pun intended, side tangent that popped into my head as we started rolling with the coverage last night and the betting markets, or actually the prediction markets, because betting is illegal. So prediction markets, they're all the rage. And one particular one that we picked up on to watch as time went by, because the speech logged on to see how things are going through. Now, Trump's speech last night generated $11.9 million in volume cash for the Kalshi hourly breakdown. This is this Kalshi we're looking at here because that's the one I picked up on. So I started watching it for time and see how things would pay out. And this was a very interesting thing. I am in the middle of some real soul searching on whether I want to take on prediction markets. One, in my commentary, because they seem to be picking things, and two, as a way to be sponsors, because we try to do betting. We did do some betting things for the football stuff, for fantasy football, but this gets a little weird when we start betting on real life events. Now, let's talk about the heavy trading that happened during the speech from last night, where Donald Trump gave an 40, like an hour and 48 minutes, 108 minutes or so of time to his speech, and with that generated $11.97 million in trading volume on the prediction market platform Kalshi itself. This is from the hourly breakdown data released after the event. And you could watch it as it went in real time to see how things are going, because at certain points they'd have to take things off the market because he'd already beat those odds. Now, traders placed bets on specific outcomes tied to the speech, including some policy mentions. Would he say certain things going on, the tone that was going to be given, and some market movement statements. And the spike in activity reflected growing public interest in real time events during major political moments, trading on those as they are happening. And this is a big, big deal. And if you don't know if it's a big deal, trust me, this may actually affect some outcomes for some more political things as opposed to just the sporting things that it's sort of trying to ape out. The hourly data reportedly shows that the modest trading in the lead up to the speech was followed by sharp spikes during key segments inside of the talk. Volume accelerated when Trump addressed topics such as immigration and tariffs and economic policy. Also, traders appeared to respond quickly to specific phrases and signals to basically get in on the action, pushing contracts up or down within the minutes as they happen. Analysts say the pattern resembles live sports betting, but tied to political speech in the context instead of plays of games. You may do some sort of prop bet if your favorite player does a great play and you want to add or subtract to what your parlay looks like. This was the same thing done, except while Donald Trump was selling the union and the state of it to kind of us, maybe the world, maybe mostly to himself. It is sort of, you have to kind of take the speech as it went. Now, what exactly were people actually betting on and in real time? The markets reportedly included contracts such as whether Trump would mention certain countries, announcing executive actions, shift tone on economic issues, go from grumpy to happy and happy to grumpy, if you will. But some contracts resolved within the hour, like right on the tap. When he said Somalia, bam, you got that. You paid off on that one. Others remain open for longer terms or interpretation, basically whether you can kind of, judges tell you whether he hit that mark or not. Kalshi allows legally regulated event-based trading in the U.S. on anything, including sports gambling, which is mostly illegal in most states. But this is not sports. This is politics. And under the oversight of the Commodities Futures Trading Commissions, or they get a chance to keep an eye on what's going on. The CFTC, not the FCC, as you would expect for other things. As we said, the number that we hit last night was 11.97 million in volume and highlights the expanding role of prediction markets in political coverage now. Platforms like Kalshi and other exchanges have seen increases in activity during elections, Supreme Court rulings, and high profile speeches as well. Supporters argue that market reflects real time crowds' wisdom of crowds. More people see this thing, and you can crowd fund an actual cause, what people think is going to happen. The critics, however, warn they may encourage speculation and people sort of making it happen, putting in the idea that we might want to see this. So put more money on this bill right here, and the sensitive political developments that are happening, and how's our politicians tend to say kind of dumb things at the wrong time, playing up on those sort of bad deals. Political analysts note that the prediction markets are becoming part of the modern media ecosystem, whether we like it or not, alongside with polling and cable news commentary. In fact, the prediction markets tend to be better than polling these days, as polling is just sort of just wacky in the world of Trump. And cable news commentary, which people say they hate more of, so I produce as much as I can here on the internet, is something that is going away. But making a chance to put your money where your mouth is and see how things go, that's all the rage. The ability to wager on speech content and outcomes may change how audience actually engage with the political events. And at the same time, regulators continue to examine how the markets will function because they don't really know how they will work in some cases and whether insider information or volatility pose risks. Remember, somebody made money off Maduro being picked up in Venezuela a few hours before Maduro was picked up in Venezuela. Somebody had a tip that something would happen and they put it down in a prediction market and made a buttload of cash in the process. From the top, the pros of high volume political event trading, such as this or anyone out there. High trading volume can signal strong public engagement. People are paying attention. Provide real time sentiment indicators. You can really tell as people are dropping more into those bids what people are focusing for and looking at. The regulated markets may offer some transparency compared to informal betting channels, but as it stands right now, prediction markets are essentially a way for people to say, I think this is going to happen, and the wisdom of crowds is where we go with it. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, large wagers tied to political speeches may encourage speculation over substance. If you put a big chunk of money on some guy saying some certain thing, they probably want to make their folks happy and may hit that and will keep an eye on the speculative market, less on their notes. Critics argue that financing political movements could also blur the lines between the civic participation and markets gambling. It's really there. Trying to put a movement into monetary terms, even if it's just a bunch of people just sort of, playing the market on it, is a big deal, as opposed to the general just going for it because you love the candidate. You love what they're standing for. You're down what they do. This is just with Kalshi, because Kalshi is the one that popped into my head as we were working on the coverage last night. 108 minutes of coverage of Donald Trump and some pre-game stuff as well. As we watched down as the markets ticked down, it's got closer and closer to the number. Now, Kalshi was basically betting on him over 125 minutes, 125 plus, but their numbers for that was extremely low up until the point. Essentially, at the peak point, I think it was like 63 cents, where as it got closer and closer to be wrapping up at the 100-minute or so, it was closer to paying out around 80 cents or so if you hit in that window, although as it pushed on, it pushed on. What do you think about speculative markets? What's going on in the moment right now for Kalshi itself, for the State of the Union last night, and these things that happen? The speculative markets have allowed for people to gamble, prop bets more or less, on basically anything, even if gambling and those websites are not legal in your state, because this is more like a regulation for something on stocks as it is on gambling. Although it's gambling. What it does is gives you a chance to be a part of the action and be a part of the actual speech. Or is it a way to exploit you because all the gambling sites always make money? They always find a way to make more than you put into. The same thing said for these predictive markets where they take a cut and most of the money is doled out, but they can make their money first. And the biggest thing is the chances of winning are still just as slim as putting up that bet on that prop and on that parlay on the DraftKings or one of those things. What do you think? the money put down on Trump last night in the speech, is that's the harbinger of things to come, good, bad, or indifferent. I guess harbinger means it's not so great. What do you think about that? Prediction markets and all? Let me know in the comments.